Hi, this is Big Mama. I just finished my Dear Julie July challenge, and the challenge is called, I'm going to read my notes here. The challenge is called July Just Scraps, Shipping, and Shapes Junk Journal. And so what Julie had us do is 5 different shapes. And those shapes are round, oval, square, rectangle, and long strips. And so out of those items, she had us make a tag, a journaling card, and a pocket. And then she gave us restrictions on things that we could use, like our scraps and our junk mail items and shipping items. So that is the journal that I made, and I got to make a really, really grungy journal. I used Julie's Golden Grunge, and it is Golden Grunge doilies. Digital, and also her Friday freebies that she had and different things that she has given us on Patreon. So this is the journal I made. I want you to meet a charming little grungy girl. And so there she is. I hope that I'm getting her in there. The shape, when we made our cover, we were to do all those shapes first, and then we were to decorate it with those shapes. So with the oval here, I used a Kleenex box out of my trash or my junk, and then I covered it with a scrap of material, and I had this piece of plastic that I put in here that has been inked on, and also up here for my rectangle there's the word inspire is inside there. And then this rectangle I had used some modeling paste and a dish towel over the top of it. Then we were to use like our circles, so I have these circles that were from some scraps of lace. And also here where she's cherished grunge, because I do cherish my grunge, and so this little label from Tim Holtz is cherished, and we could use our metal. And the top of the Kleenex box was square, and so these brads are square. And then my long strip is this item here, but I also have a long strip here of lace for my spine. And then I don't know if you can see, but they have ovals in here. So that's my oval decoration. And then I ran the seam binding that I got from Penny Pudge that was all grunged up is what I used to tie it. So I ran that underneath this to hold it in place, but I also sewed it into the cereal box. I did 2 pieces of cereal box together to give it a strong cover, and then I zigzagged that in and then covered it with this so that it doesn't pull out. But I also ran it up underneath this lace, and then on the back I had some scraps of the edge of this dish towel. And so what I did was I took them and then formed these little X's and held that in place. So this is not sewn, it's just fed through these little X's. So, and this is some dish towel. I have a box of some things that I got from Sarita, and every once in a while she does a sale. Sarita sells. And so I got those. This material and everything from Sarita, and this is from Sarita. So there she is, the cover, and this is Julie's digital, and it is a tall tag, and I just love this little girl. I think she's absolutely adorable, and like I said, the word inspire is in there, and I wanted it to look really, really old, like you found it up in the attic. So let's go ahead and get inside this little girl. Notice when I say little, I cinched her in real good. She is going to go boing as soon as I open her up, because she's loaded. Now, we had to do 5 charms, and these charms, this is the oval, the square, my rectangle. This is the strip, was a Dear Julie Julie digital that I tore the strip and then wrapped it around the paper clip, and then the circle. And all of them have Julie's digital on it, as well as I had some scraps of my masterboard that I put on there too, on the back. And then I put glossy accent over the top of it. So there's a stamp from Julie's digital on this one, and then this one here has a piece of Julie's digital on there. So those are my charms. We had to do 5 charms, and I put them in little tabs at the top because they hang down so far. I didn't want them to get caught up in this if they were longer, if that made sense. So here we go. The material that I used is from Tim Holtz, and I thought that that was just really a good surprise. You've got this really muted colors that are here, and then all of a sudden, hello. And isn't that how we are? Sometimes we behave really, really well, but inside, yeah, we got it going on. So this is Julie's digital, and then I put some parchment in there to protect the pages so you can journal on them. And then this pocket, I did a tall tag here, and then I took the strips and I inked this. The strips have been coffee dyed. They're in pieces, cut pieces off of it, and so those are all glued down, and it looks like they almost are like bamboo or something, but that is flat, and it is just because of how the coffee had dyed the paper on the edge. And had a scrap of a magazine page, and so I thought, well, we can use our scraps. And have my circle with that there, and then my oval tag is here, and then we were to make 7 clusters, and so I made all of my clusters the same, and they were to have all 5 shapes. So I've got my square, the circle is here in the middle, oval is this burlap piece, well, not burlap, it's a piece of that dish towel. The long strip is from my masterboard scrap, and so the rectangle is this scrap off of a scrapbooking paper, and so I put that on there so that it opens out here, that. And we could use a couple of different types of paper, so I use I have a huge ledger, and these are pages out of the ledger, and this is paper that I've dyed that was notebook paper. And then here I printed on the ledger, and my printer doesn't go all the way to the edge, and so I use scraps of lace here to go on out to the edge for that. And then we were to do a 24-inch snippet roll, so that I cut it, and so this is the circle of the snippet roll, and then here is my circle tag. And I had printed on this piece of paper. Anything that we printed on with the digital, we could add in there too. So I printed on some papers to get that in there. And then for my long strip pocket, I wove the strips together to make my pocket. And then this is a piece of vellum over the top of it. And then this is off of the masterboard, the long strip. And so I just folded it in half, and it's got Julie's digital printed on the back of it. And so I folded that in half so that you can write on it, and put that in the little pocket on the front. And then I just had a scrapbook page here that was in French. I thought it looked kind of cool in there, so I just set it here. And some more of the ledger and the notebook paper, a little tab so you can open up the ledger to write on. And then this pocket, this is Julie's Digital, and I cut out the oval for the 13 to put on my pocket here. And then this, I like how this tag has that little button that keeps it from going all the way down, and so I put that there. And this is a square tag with Julie's Digital. And here is the square that is the journaling card. And so what I did was, it's a rectangle shape, and this was her digital, and I just put it on this paper here, and then I put that up underneath. This is Julie's Digital also, that I folded in half. And then the way this is, it, when I put it in the pocket, it goes over the edge. See? Ooh. It is so easy to do when you're doing it upside down and backwards. And so more the digital. And my snippet, no, cluster. And here I put a napkin on the back of this page here to reinforce it, and I also added some lace on the bottom and some washi to give it the length I needed for the page. And that's just, I love the feel of that. I used the Heat and Bond Light and put the napkin on there, and you can feel that. But I also then sprinkled a little bit of the copper embossing powder and ironed that on, and gives it that texture, and so it's got some copper to it also. And I'm gonna look, here's, the page was torn, and so I just embraced it. You know me, my Grinch. And then I used, we could get two things if we did the mini challenge and the challenge. And so I did doily and stickers. And so this is the doily, and I added the different inks to it and turned it into the colors that would really, really go good with the colors that are up here to make that all cohesive throughout. And then so this is a circle because the other half is on the other side, and this is my circle tag. And what this is here, I embroidered Julie's Digital. It was a long tag, and so this is actually the upside down bottom part of the tag. So I put a butterfly, that's a sticker, and this is a sticker. So I put those there to make it look like it was right side up, and put the button up there to close it. Hold on, I know I can do this. I practiced and practiced. And so that antique button, and then this is the other side, and I embroidered on her digital. And then this opens up so that you have a journaling tag that you can write on. And this is here to cover up where I sewed the button on. So I'll go back through and get that closed up. And then this is the digital here, because we need to have a digital, and so there it is. And it's a tall pocket. And this is the other half of the doily. And this is that was the journaling spot, and then this is the tag. So you can write on the back, that's her digital. And then I stitched it around with the vellum, and so this has got the digital on here, and then I laid the vellum over the top that I printed the digital on, and then when I zigzagged around it, I used the copper. I hope you can see that okay. I don't mean to make you cross-eyed, especially if you're watching on television. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. But I like, when I do the zigzag, I like going back in with the marker on the edge, and it makes it look like it's a trim. So that's what I did there. And make sure I'm not losing out on anything. Okay. Here's some more of the snippet roll, and this is my square. And what I did with their digitals is I added the glossy accent on the shapes so that you could really see them. But then I used a lot of the inks and alcohol ink and sprays to give it that color that goes in with the rest of the digitals and stuff. Now this is my oval. And what I did with this one is I took her pocket that she had, the digital, and I took and turned it into an envelope, and then I cut the edges and glued them down here, but it is an envelope that has then something inside it. So that is for my journaling tag here. I get those confused. I know that we're supposed to do a tag and pocket and then a journaling spot, or I think is the other one. But I drew the lines on the back too so that you could write on the back of it. But this is just for looks here where that closes, the envelope. And I love the magazine had Colorado Springs in it because that's where I was stationed at when I was in the Army. So I liked finding that. And now this is the next signature with her digital. And this one, the pocket, I use this doily. It's an oval doily. And so when I did, because you had to have all of the shapes, so that's the oval, and then here is the square, so you'll see it on the other half of this where I put it there. But there's a spot here where you can put something in it, and also it's the pocket here on top. And so this was the flip up pocket, and so the doily here, you can use it as a pocket too. So you can put something in there as well. And then this is my rectangle tag, and I put Julie's digital on the back also. The challenge to remember everything, I'm just pretty proud of myself. Okay, so here is the cluster. And I just folded up this little piece of paper that I had in my scrap so that it goes here. But it also holds I had a shorter piece of the ledger, and then I had a scrap of ledger, so I put it on the bottom to give it the length, but then I didn't put it on the bottom of this part. And it comes over. But then there was that gap here at the bottom, and so I used a sticker on the bottom that will hold that seam together when I sewed it in. So here's the other half of the sticker that is flipped up this way. Better put that piece in here or I won't remember that one. I have to go back and watch my video. It's bad enough you guys have to watch it. I want to do it too. And this one, I did all of the stitching on the digital. This digital here in the front, it's another, I had it twice, and so I just stitched on it and did my oval pocket and then made a tag to go in there. And this is the long strip that we were to do on the snippet. And so I put one of Julie's butterflies on there on the snippet. She has butterflies in a lot of her digitals, and they serve really, it's wonderful to have. Even if you just had one digital and you had the butterflies, you can cut them out and use them in all kinds of projects. And there's the rest of that sticker that I put to cover up the seams so that it wouldn't tear. And so you can see how that opens out. Now they say that it will, which I glued, nope. So it opens out there, so you can write on it. And the other half of that oval doily. And then this is my oval card. Am I cross-eyed? I hope not. Okay, so here in the back, I did the long strip here, and this little thing opens up. I did the long strip into a rosette, and then this opens up, and this drops down to where you can do journaling on all of that, and bring it back up, and the rosette holds it closed. So that's one of those little mystery spots that the grandbabies love. And then this is one of Julie's little bank envelopes. And I put the butterfly here, and it just opens up to where you can slide something in there. And I closed the top off with this on purpose so that you could just slide something in there. And then used a sticker on this one. Alrighty, next one, I just put the cluster on the top of the first page. And this is another one of those little books. I put it on a tea tag with my scraps, and it actually opens up to where you can write on the different pages if you wanted to. And so I did that, and I left the string that went with the tea. And so this is my rectangle pocket, and here's a rectangle card, and I stitched around it and have that scrap on there. No. That may be this, when I was tea dyeing the paper, this piece came off. And so I think I've told you in one of the other videos that I got a magazine catalog that had a bunch of taped pages, and it served no purpose. And so I went and I took all of the tape off and saved the tape in a little container up there. And so that is authentic tape. And so I taped that piece together. I thought that is just going to be so absolutely cool inside this journal. So no, I did not throw the paper away or the scrap. And so put the tape, just used my glue stick, and I glued my tape. That was a loud laugh. And some more of the coffee dyed or tea dyed. And where I printed Julie's digital. And printed over here on this one. And here we were to do this tall tag that was a triple fold, and so I embroidered on a copy of this. And then I took and laid this on the original, and cut out the oval, put the plastic in, and then took the square or the rectangle that was the scrap and laid it back down over the plastic and zigzag stitched around it, and then laid it back over the original with these brads in it. So that is just for looks. It's not a tuck or anything. It's just for looks. But that I did that hand embroidery to make it look like dried flowers. And I thought, well, if you're embroidering one, you should embroider more. And so I embroidered over this one and waxed it. And so I have it laying on top of the original, so you can see the two different colors of what it looks like before it's waxed. And so you can see in there what this looks like. And so I laid that on top then of the original, because if you're going to print it twice, you might as well use it, right? And so then if you're going to embroidery one and you're going to embroidery two, why not embroidery some more? So I took another scrap and embroidered on here and did a tag to go in that pocket. So I've got all of that embroidery together, but then this flips open for your journaling spot. And we were to have the circles, so there's all the shapes are there, and this is the circles. And I took the copper paint, and I did pewter, no, not pewter, the antique bronze, the copper, and some of the antique gold, and dotted it on there to make that lace look like metal. And then here's some more of the snippet roll and the oval part, her digital. And that is a tuck that goes down there in the bottom. And I put so much in the front, you're going to see that a lot of this doesn't have anything in the pockets. We did not have to fill the pockets. So if you buy this journal, look at that. You've got a tuck spot you can put something in. And now, keep on going with your grungy pages. See, look at this. If you bought this journal and you're sitting there journaling, you don't have to worry about spilling your coffee on the page. I've done it for you, okay? That's the tea. You can tell the difference between coffee and tea. That this is that orange color from the tea. Coffee is more of a brown. Now, this one was fun because I used a I used a scrap of my scrapbook paper. You see that mountain back there? I actually have scraps of it. And then Julie's digital, I photocopied it about 3 times, this piece, and I fussy cut up around this part of the paper. And then after I did that, I laid all of her pieces. I'll just empty out. So this digital here, I laid these pieces on top. So now this is a place where you could hide a little note in. And then I have a little piece of paper here that I did some gilding on the edge of it for you. And then here is the actual pocket right here. And so I did this where you can see that I did some embroidering on it. And so this is a square. Yep, I bet you didn't know that, but it is also a pocket on top of there too that you can put something in. I like having those little secret places. Now I will never ever, oh, there it is. You know, that's what's fun about the treasure hunt in these journals, is having those secret places. And this I put in there so you can put a tuck in. And this again is that teacher's magazine that I had the page out of. And we're down finally to the last one. And there is the napkin that I have on top of the notebook paper, not notebook paper, magazine page. And then here I made a tuck spot with cluster. And then I love this because look at that modern technology right there. Every classroom should have one of those. That's a pencil sharpener, in case you didn't know. A pencil is this thing here. You can use this to write with. It is called a pencil. And they go into things like this and sharpen. I know. Did you have any idea we had such cool things back then? And then I trimmed the bottom of this short page with a scrap of music paper. and added some washi to it. And got all of my pages in there. Okay, she also wanted us to do this little 6-pack, and so what I did was when I photocopied this, it has layers, and so I took another piece of that and cut it out for the layer and have this in underneath that. And Kat, when she came from Florida, some of you know who Kat is. She's always a Dear Julie Julie's. She's one of her moderators. She had brought magazine page, and so I have this lady who was from my scraps up there and took a scrap page out of my basket up there and stick her in that. And then here we needed to have an oval. So that's my oval. I folded down the edge instead of cutting the little circle, and put a scrap of paper in there. And now I have on this side, I have a tuck that goes in there, so you can slide something in. And then you get to see what I did on the other half. And some more journaling space. Isn't it nice to have space where you can write? This is a journal and you can write in it. And so here is this tall tag. And so we have a triple pocket here. And this doily is my circle. And then this is my rectangle. And what I did with her digital is I made it into a tag that opens up. And so I attached it here so that it's a flip-flop. And I love flip-flops. And so put that there so that it just looks like it's a tag on the page, but you can write on it. And then down here at the bottom has this little girl, and she has a circle for the oval. And I made this tag to go in this pocket and slotted that, and put a little butterfly up there to just add some interest for my stickers. And so there's the triple pocket that you can add little tags or tickets or whatever in. And then on this page, because I had an extra one of these, I decided, well, I would just attach that on here so that you have a little bit more of a journaling spot to go out. And then this is the other part of that 6-pack, and I made this tag, and we used to go to auctions all the time, and this is a piece from an auction. Have a little tag on there that goes up with this, and I inked it with all those colors and put a rusted paper clip on there. And so you've got all of that to use to write on. And then I used copper and did the embossing and everything on there to give you that feel for the colors. And instead of cutting the little holes with the little hole press to do a thumbnail, I tore the edges to keep with the grunge look. I tore the edges here so that you'd have that on each one of these, because I wanted it to look really grungy. You know, grunge is my thing, and gnarly is my word. So gnarly grunge. What makes this so special that I want to fix it, but I wouldn't do the one up. Okay, coming around the curve. We're almost to the end, everybody. And that opens out. You got plenty of journaling space on it. Some more of that magazine. And I just trimmed it out with lace at the top. And here is the very last of the snippet roll, which is a top tuck that you can put something up underneath there. And put that square on it and signed it. And I do not have pockets on the inside of the covers because she She's got it all going on. You do not have to pocket her in the inside. But look at that. She is so loaded and ready to go. So this girl is going to be for sale. If you're interested, please send me a message in the chat. If you know me and you can email me, feel free. But I will get a hold of you. We'll get it figured out. I don't have an Etsy store or any of that, but if you're interested, you tell me and we'll get her to you. All right. Thank you very much for paying attention, and I hope that you enjoyed my cherished grunge. Bye-bye. Look at that. I'm just shooting you all over the room. Bye.